Welcome to today's hearing from the Task Force on Monetary Policy, Treasury Market Resilience, and Economic Prosperity. I want to start by thanking Chairman Hill and Ranking Member Vargas and our witnesses for the flexibility in rescheduling this hearing after the government shutdown delayed our October plans. The Treasury market is the deepest, most liquid, and most essential market to the global economy. Our focus today is on the primary dealers that intermediate in that market and the regulatory and administrative burdens that constrain their ability to do so. Primary dealers facilitate trades between the Treasury, foreign central banks, pension funds, and asset managers, among others. Our market structure relies on primary dealers to ensure steady demand for the nation's debt and the effective implementation of the monetary policy. Capital requirements such as Basel III, the GSIP subcharge, and the risk incentive leverage ratios have undermined primary dealers' intermediation capacity. Robust participation from intermediaries in the Treasury market is essential to the market's ability to function well among stress and volatility. Congress must continue to evaluate the health of the market, particularly as the capacity to intermediate does not grow commensurate to the government's ever-growing issuance of debt. Market disruptions in 2014, 2019, and 2020 demonstrate the need to examine and reevaluate the limitations and constraints regulations may inadvertently put on the Treasury market. This morning, Vice Chair Bowman testified before the full committee, and we agreed that our capital framework should not unnecessarily constrain the intermediates our market relies on. That's why I was pleased to see the Fed finally adjust the enhanced supplemental leverage ratio to remove the disincentive for banks to engage in low-risk activities such as holding treasuries, but more is yet to be done. Capital regulations may need adjustment to properly recognize treasuries as a nearly risk-free assets, particularly as liquidity regulations require an increase in the volume of these liquid asset banks are holding. Other leverage ratios, such as the supplementary leverage ratio and Tier 1 leverage ratio, may also need to be adjusted to increase balance sheet capacity and ensure that they function as intended, a backstop to risk-weighed capital requirements, not a binding constraint on the intermediation. I also continue to agree with Chair Myron. Excluding treasuries and reserves from the SLR and the ESLR would help insulate the Treasury market from potential disruption during periods of market stress. Finally, I intend to ask GAO to re-examine the operation of the Treasuries market, including its operations, risk, and regulatory structure. The last time this report was conducted was in 1986. The landscape has changed since then, and we should get an updated report. And I look forward to the discussion today, and I yield back.